Okay, I'm recording. I'm doing the whole series again. This is our project. So first thing I will see is say check units and make sure that things are in the same line of what we need. It says feet and feet in inches. That's a good one. So again, this is triple check. You have done it already, but it's never about to check again. And then the dimensions, I think I have them here. So triple check your dimensions to make sure things are good. Now, as I mentioned last time, we don't want any single curves nor dimensions here. We only want one single closed solid. To know that it's a closed solid, it's under properties. So say something like closed, solid, extrusion, closed. That's a poly surface, whatever it is, but closed is the term. If I explode this, obviously I'm selecting surface and say surface. It's not the same thing. I'm joining afterwards. If you join the surface together, you will create a closed system. No? So that's good. Closed poly surface, good. Open, no good. As simple as that. Okay, so I'm going to introduce another element from we talked about. I'm going to do the loft command again that I talked last class. To do the loft, you just need a set of curves. The curves could be open. Well, we want them probably to be closed. I created a curve on the C plane, which is horizontal there. And I just type curve, the command, and then I click several times. Okay, I'm escaping that. Now I could copy and say vertical here. I can say V, the shortcut, and up, and I can copy this several times. You can also use the gumball by pressing Alt and clicking on the arrow at the same time and drag. So that will give you a copy of that curve. So in essence, we need 4, 3, 2, as many curves as we need that they're placed in parallel planes, as I mentioned last class. You could loft these guys, by the way, but that would be giving you basically a vertical surface. So that would be the same as an extrusion. Doesn't make any sense, no? So what I'm going to do is change a little bit each of the curves while keeping them on the same plane. That's why I'm using the green and red arrows here, not the blue, because that will just move, the z-axis of that point. And then I'll do loft. Loft is a command that connects through a surface different curves that are in different parallel planes. You have to select one by one and in order, 1, 2, and in the same area. So I'm selecting on the right side of that curve. If you press enter, you have different options for the loft. You can do loose, you can do tight, you can do straight sections, you can do uniform. So there are different ways of doing this loft. They normally use the normal, and that you can simplify the curve. And that's it. That gives you a surface. Remember that the curve's still there because that's what Rhino does, but you're given a surface. This is not a closed solid or poly surface. So these curves will be good for other things in Rhino, I don't know, but they won't be good for what we want to do. So you need closed curves. For example, this curve, I'm going to copy, press Alt, blue arrow, copy, again, dragging up while you press the vertical axis, and then I'm going to scale them or move some points to make some slight variations. And loft. Select one by one in order of the loft and in the same area. It gives you this curve. They should kind of come along in the same area and with the same direction. And then you say enter. Okay. That gives you like a little base or something. Notice that this is still not closed. Obviously, it's open in the top and bottom, but because we created this with planar curves, we can actually cap this guy, no problem. And that will create now a closed poly surface. Okay, so we could use this later on to do a project. Okay, I did this vertical planes for curves, but you could do it from the front elevation or the right elevation. So I'm going to do a different thing. I'm going to do a polyline. So it's slightly different shape. I'm going to go back to perspective. And I'm going to copy those because again, we need a series of curves or lines or polylines that are in parallel view. So I'm going to change those lines. Sorry, those control points. But control points selecting the lines as they appear. So now the last one. And Loft. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, looks good. And there you go. So you have this funky kind of a straight and curvy at the same time. And I'm going to cap this guy because we need it to be polysurface. Okay. So just as an example, you shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to do one project here on the right and then another one here on the left. You should not move around too much from this point so you don't disturb this 0, 0 coordinate, which will be very important later on. I'm scaling using the little box, but you can also say scale, command, and click. Okay, you can scale vertically by stretching. You can do a flip this 180 because it's rotating, and then flip this. I can go to the front view and do a mirror of this plane, and that created just a mirror of that piece of that plane. That's another command, mirror, that you can use. And okay, we have that piece, and maybe we can move. Oops. This one, I'm going to copy it, put it here, scale it a bit, go to the top view, make sure it touches a couple of those, take it up. Okay, so that would be one, and then this, I want to just keep it a bit more simple, just a bit smaller. Okay, so, okay, that's two projects that have emerged out of Boolean operations. This is the lasagna world that we're saying. By the way, lasagna, you could have also just, stretch this down, up, copy it, mirror, that creates a mirror of it, and then I'm going to just move it a little bit here, down, and rotate 180. So I have some funky things here going on. Okay. Boolean difference or intersection. And that gives me the lasagna world number 1. No, so you have a surface on the bottom, another one in there, but I could have done, as always I do, Boolean intersection. Boolean operations are always the same. Just or read the order of selection process and go with that. Boolean difference, for example, and we get our little funky cheese pieces. Okay, and delete that piece. So that's the loft. So I think if we could do a couple of lofts or one, whatever you feel most comfortable, that's up to you. How you want to have fun with making projects. Okay. I delete everything, and I'm gonna call this the project. There's a little opening there, very cute. Anyway, well, one thing I didn't do before is save as the project, so you're not, disturbing the base project. But we know we need from InDesign main axonometric, elevations, and the classic perspective. We've done this before, but I'm going to do it again. So let's go with axonometrics. I'm going to use the isometric view, triangle, set view, isometric, and then southeast, for example, or any other one. I'm going to select this, make 2D. Here we can change several things. Just make sure this is the same view. I'm going to select all of the options because I need elevations. And I can call this project. Let's say now it's number 5 action or something. Say okay. It will create a bunch of layers here. These are the ones that we need afterwards. Take some time. And Control Tab to go to the top view. And I'm going to place these guys over here. Control Tab, Control Tab. I'm going to view and I'm going to go to the perspective, set view perspective. I'm going to do a perspective from a different view. So I'm going to try to emphasize the cameras is a bit more dynamic as an image. The way it works, I did it a little bit fast, is just set camera, adjust lens. This symbol appears. You scroll back, but you don't scroll. You press the left button to activate that command backwards, and then you scroll inwards. So that's how you create emphasis. If it gets too crazy, you go back to the perspective, and you will go back to that same previous camera lens. But again, camera lens, left button, maintain press, and then scroll in. That's your little thing. Okay, so I'm gonna do it from this view, maybe from the bottom, why not? Some of you could do that. And again, we need to make sure that inside of this view, we have a nice shot of this. We need to save this. We definitely need to say set view, name view, and here save. This window, by the way, might be somewhere else, and you're gonna call this perspective cool or good or whatever you want to do. And this we needed to, so we can do every other project from the same exact view. No? Good. So from that view, you can double click there, select, make 2D. I press enter very fast, so I made a mistake there because we don't need elevation. So let me go back once this is done. Control C, select, make 2D. Now we don't need third angle projection, we just need the view. So, and now we can also title this Predify Perspective. Cool. Another set of layers, Control Tab, move there. Okay, and now we need the perspective, section perspective. For that, we need the clipping plane. I'm going to go to the front view. Well, actually, I'm going to change. I'm going to do top view this time. Clipping plane. I'm going to create a clipping plane here. Control Tab to the perspective. And notice how you don't see that being cut because I created from the top view. It's very simple. You just have to go to the properties and then say clipping plane here and say, hey, I want to see the cut in perspective. Cool. No, that way you can see the cut there. Okay, let's just say I like what's going on here. You need to still decide what is the view that you want. I'm going to do from a different, no, from here. And a little bit from the top so you can see a bit more of this. And then we need to save this view as well. Name views, save, perspective, cut, cool. So we have another one there. And now we need to select both the model and the clipping plane and do make 2D. Again, one view. And there's one thing that's different. And hopefully you guys have it clicked already, but if not, make sure this is clip plane intersection. We want that. And this is cut. Okay. It's going to create that. Okay, so there you have it. We have all of our guys. We select them all. Export selected. Illustrator. And I'm going to call it a project 5 base or intro. I don't know, something that you understand is the beginning of the project. Say okay. We go back to Illustrator. We'll say open. We select this guy. Most probably maybe if you're working on your laptop, this is already 10 by 10 because you remember the last paper space that you selected, but in my case it's not. So I'm going to say new print inches 10, 10. Okay. As always, select a bunch of them, Control C, Control Tab. Before pasting, paste, remember, it should be checked, and paste. All of the layers are there, so I'm happy. And good. Now, I'm not going to do the guides, but I'm going to explain how you get those. I'm basically going to organize them a little bit fast. So I'm going to choose these two elevations. I'm going to delete that one. And I'm going to scale them, pressing Shift. So the constraints are actually kept. In this case, I'm going to do the perspective smaller here. And the section cut, I'm going to leave it here a little bigger. Okay, I mean, again, so you're going to decide this a bit more carefully. You need your time. Don't do like your professor. Do more like what I did last time in class. Okay, what did I do? I actually went to Window, View, and I said, I want the guides, and I need to create guides showing the rulers. And then you press Alt, and then you start creating guidelines wherever you want them to make sure that the next template is actually precisely the same, no? The guidelines I recommend they're in the same layer, so we'll create another layer, call it guides. There you go, and then I will place them by clicking on the little box, place them there. You can turn them off, on, or lock them, no? Important step now is, I mean, one thing I like to do here that I haven't talked about is to place the hidden lines all the way to the bottom. And I'll explain that in a second. Visible lines on top, hidden lines on the bottom. So first of all, you can actually select them much easier. So you can select the 3 hidden lines, make sure my dash line is 2 and 2, and make sure that my dash lines are a bit thinner, 0.5, and maybe a little lighter. Well, if you want to do something funky, that's fine with me. If you want to do something like red or magenta for the dot lines, why not? There we go. And then on the layers manager, we're going to select by pressing Control each of the circles for the visible lines. I'm going to leave it in 1, and I'm going to leave it actually in that color. Why not? If you want to make it a little darker, that is my funky option. Okay, so let's say this is perfect, which is not, because the bottom is a little bit too big compared to the top anyway. But let's just imagine I have gone through the process of creating the guidelines and that things are snapping properly to their place. There's one thing I'm missing is the cut from the section. So I can go to my section visible lines. Here is select, and that could be just to exaggerate a little bit thicker, like 3, say. So that's a way to show that section. Let's save this guy. Project 5, and I think final will make more sense. It'll take some time to save. And again, these guys, we don't need them here. I'm gonna just delete them. I wanna make sure I'm not working on the do not print. So I click image and then Control D is for place. And I'm gonna go project 5. Important is click only once. If you click twice, you're changing the scale. We don't want that. Control C, Z. Click once, and that's the scale you want it to be. For now, just place it there in the center of the cell, and you're good to go. it looks horrible, that is not horrible. It's just an issue of display. You can change it to high quality, but you don't have to. You can just work on typical display, and when you export this as a PDF, which is what I'm going to do now, it will look good. File, export, PDF print if you're printing, and if not web, which is for more internet world, and save. Let's go to that folder. And here's, if I double click, Control L, this is the panel you submit whenever it's fulfilled. There are a couple more things, the color, and then you need to add a title and a little name for each of the elements, but this is it. Okay. Let me stop recording and I'm going to record the second part in a second.